I'm here with three special guests, Kathleen Nelson, Louisa Mora, and Jorge De Nava Jr. So I will start out with my usual introduction and then we'll get started. As usual, I want to remind you that we have a contest going on for children in the field. So if you are, or anyone you know is between the ages of 10 and 18 years old and is a child of migrant or seasonal farm workers, you are eligible to apply. So please go to our website. It's going to be on the screen in just a moment. There. So go to that website and you'll find our application for 2020 and all the guidelines. Also, I want to thank everyone who has been on so far. This is, I think, week 9 of this project for COVID-19. If you want to remind yourself how long we've been doing this, it's been that long. So we have really enjoyed getting to know people on here. And today we are really excited to have folks from our AFOP community. CVOC and OIC of Washington is here to join us for part 2 of the AFOP member services to the farm worker community. So we just wanted to dive right in and just talk about what AFOP is doing because amazingly, even though everyone is following CDC guidelines and transitioning to working from home, we're still serving farm workers because, as you all know, they've been deemed essential. They're in the fields and many of them are in more need than ever. So the AFOP family is rising to the challenge, providing emergency and job training services remotely, virtually, and in person with masks from 6 feet apart. So, Katie, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk a little bit about AFOP and NFJP for anyone who is listening and does not already know.
Thank you, Kendra. Well, yeah, a lot of our viewers on the Children in the Fields lives know about AFOP's health and safety programs and the anti-child labor campaign. But AFOP's membership is actually made up of organizations across the country who all provide career services to migrant and seasonal farm workers as well. Each member of our association has the same U.S. Department of Labor grant to provide jobs training and supportive services to migrant and seasonal farm workers who are low income and their families. So eligible farm workers can get a whole host of employment and training services like skills training for better jobs within agriculture or job training for another industry, career counseling and job placement assistance, tuition assistance, dropout prevention and support for success of young people who are in school, and all kinds of wraparound supportive services to help farm workers make a transition into full-time work or into a new industry if that's what they want, if that's the kind of career pathway that they want to choose. And in addition to those career services, the NFJP grantees provide emergency, temporary, and permanent housing services as well, and emergency services to farm workers who want to continue to work in agriculture but are in need of urgent assistance for stabilization so that they can get out into the fields and work. So that kind of gives an overview of what else it is our members do in addition to the excellent pesticide safety and heat stress and anti-child labor work that you may be familiar with from our Facebook page.
Thank you, Katie. And I forgot to mention that Katie is our Director of Workforce Development at AFOP. So she is the lady to talk to when we talk about NFJP. So she works closely with colleagues at the U.S. Department of Labor to provide technical assistance and other support to our members, and we're very appreciative. Katie, overall, how has COVID-19 been affecting the farm worker community?
Well, as we sort of talked about a little bit, the people in the agricultural industry alongside medical professionals and government agencies are deemed essential in this time. So farm workers and food process workers are still providing critical work to help keep the food coming to feed the country and feed the world. So there's a lot of challenges for people who are continuing to try and work at this time, who can't social distance. The nature of farm work often makes it really difficult to follow those CDC guidelines. So a lot of growers and a lot of farm labor contractors are having to make really drastic changes. If you imagine, how do you take folks that often live together with multiple families in a camp or in a home, and often ride all together in big vans and buses to get to the fields where they're working close together, or get to food processing plants where they're working elbow to elbow, to make a transition to make it safer to be working together, getting that 6 foot distance, making sure that people have the protective equipment that they need has been a big challenge. And so the growers and people who are serving farm workers have been working really hard to try and figure out the best practices to make it safer for them. Yeah, that's.
Well, you reminded me, Katie, of the website that you had mentioned before we went live, and I just typed that into the chat. So everyone, please avail yourself of that link. It has several videos in Spanish and English about COVID-19. So it's a really helpful resource. And I also want to remind our listeners, you can type your name and where you're joining us from into the chat. We always love to see who all is on. And today, just on the screen, we have both coasts represented, East and West. So good morning and good afternoon. And on the chat, we already have people from North Dakota joining, so welcome. So Katie, I also want to ask how AFOP is helping the farm worker community overall, and then we'll get into details with Louisa and Jorge.
Yeah, so our members are, a lot of our members are also, because they're community organizations, considered essential services. So our membership organizations are all doing their best to continue to provide the job training and supportive services from home when they can, or at a safe distance when they need to be out in the field to support farm workers and support those farm workers who have chosen to pursue education. One of the biggest needs that I know a lot of our members are dealing with right now during this time of sort of disruption to the status quo is helping their participants who have decided to pursue education, the families of farm workers who they're serving, and the farm workers who have decided to enter into learning. As the transition to distance learning has happened, it's been a real challenge in a lot of our rural areas for people to be able to stay connected. So the digital divide is huge in rural America, and it's especially hard on low-income individuals. So our members have been working really hard to make sure that their participants have hotspots and devices so that they can continue their education, and so that they can support their kids who are distance learning too. So that has been a big need that our members have been rising to the occasion to make sure that those of our participants who are in education and their families who are still in school can keep pursuing that education. And unfortunately, this is the great irony with our farm workers. A lot of times, food insecurity is a big problem for farm workers in general, and right now it is sort of worse than ever, with lots of layoffs and families struggling, whether they're, if there are other members of the family who were not in farm work that were laid off, and our farm worker community is often struggling for food, even though they are, their hands are bringing the food to the rest of the country. So our members have been working with their food pantries, their other local partners, and putting together food boxes and delivering them to camps and to farm workers all over the place to make sure that nobody's going hungry. So that food insecurity and that digital connection have been something that our members have had to prioritize sort of across the country, and in rural America everywhere. I think everyone's doing the same.
Yeah, we've been highlighting a few of those efforts on AFOP Nationals Facebook page as much as possible. So I know, I think Oregon was delivering food in Northern Nevada, and Indiana and Iowa and Nebraska are collecting masks and doing a great campaign there. Do you know of any more campaigns like that?
I do. I mean, I know that all of our member organizations are concerned about making sure that the workers in their area have the personal protective equipment that they need. So whether or not they're doing mask drives or connecting workers with other organizations that are helping to provide that PPE. I mean, that's a major concern for everyone. If we want to keep food moving through the country, we need to make sure that the workers in our processing plants and in the fields are able to continue to work. So that PPE is essential.
Yes. I see a lot of folks joining us from all across the country. I want to give a little shout out to Nebraska, North Dakota, and from RAP, and all of you other folks. I'm really happy to see you on. If you ever want to be a guest on this, can we call it a show, I guess?
Yeah.
Go ahead and send me a link, or send me a message on Facebook here, and I'll reach out to you. So I want to jump in and introduce our two guests from the AFOP community, Jorge and Louisa. So I'm gonna sing your praises. Just hold tight for one moment. Jorge De Nava Jr. is the executive director of the Central Valley Opportunity Center, CVOC, which provides employment, training, education, and supportive services to migrant and seasonal farm workers throughout Madera, Merced, and Stanislaus counties. I hope I pronounced those right.
Correct.
Good. You served CVOC in this role since January 2017. He has 15 years of experience in different capacities with the nonprofit agency. Jorge was born in Modesto, California, and was raised by parents who emigrated from Mexico seeking a better opportunity for their family. They made their way to the Central Valley of California and have worked in the agricultural industry for over 4 decades. Jorge, do they still work in farm work?
Retired. Yeah.
Well, welcome, Jorge. We're happy to have you.
Thank you. Glad to be here. Good morning and good afternoon.
And Louisa is the OIC NFJP director for the OIC of Washington. She oversees the executive team and the implementation of all program components. She has 36 years of experience working under the National Farm Worker Jobs Program within 4 different organizations. She sits on several statewide boards and committees, and before earning her degree and gaining employment with the program at OIC, she and her family were migrant seasonal farm workers, and she herself was a program participant. Her program experience, agricultural background, and passion to serve farm workers has been her life's mission. So welcome, Louisa. So we'll get right into the questions. Louisa, I'll start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about OIC of Washington?
Yes. OIC of Washington is a community-based organization where our headquarters is in Yakima, Washington, and we have offices throughout this entire state. So wherever farm workers are in Washington state, if they call us, we're there to serve them.
And if y'all are having a hard time hearing Louisa, just turn your volume up. We've tried everything we can to hear her, so just turn up your volume.
And we have multiple services such as energy assistance, food banks, community centers. What else do we have? We have the HEP program, just whatever services are needed, and it's very different throughout the state. So.
And HEP is the high school equivalency program, right, for farm workers?
So there's multiple services, and we're part of the Community Action Council.
Great. Jorge, how about you? Can you tell us a little bit about CVOC?
Sure. So we are a private nonprofit organization, community-based organization like OIC, and we are in the central part of California. So we are in the Central Valley, Central San Joaquin Valley, which is the breadbasket of America is referred to. And so we are north of Fresno, California, and south of Sacramento, California, and about 80 miles east of San Francisco, and about 80 miles west of Yosemite. So right in the dead center of California. We've been in operation for over 40 years now. In addition to being an NFJP grantee, we are also a community action agency in our area, which is a national program as well, derived from the War on Poverty. So we're able to serve low-income folks in our area with a wide range of service that we provide, including vocational training, employment and training assistance, job search, supportive services such as rental assistance, food vouchers, utility assistance. We also contract with the state of California, and we provide LIHEAP and home weatherization services. We also have programs specifically for farm workers to provide weatherization of their homes as well. We also have some community-based projects. Every December, we do a Christmas food basket giveaway where we distribute over 700 boxes of food to migrant seasonal farm workers in the area. Every May, we have a high school graduation scholarship program. So high school graduates in our area that have a farm worker background can receive a $1,500 scholarship to pursue higher education. We also do a little bit of other community-based projects. One is coming up here in a couple of weeks. The first weekend in June, we're having a Farm Worker Appreciation Day in Madera, California, where we will be distributing PPE. We were lucky enough to have some great partners that we were able to purchase masks and gloves and booties for the shoes, face shields. So we package those up safely, of course, and we will be distributing PPE to farm workers that first weekend in June. And we also have partnerships with the food bank, so 200 boxes of food will be handed out that day. We also have other partners like supplybank.org, which has distributed to us personal care items, toothbrushes, diapers, etc., that we will distribute as well. So I like to say we do a little bit of everything. We serve over 14,000 people a year, and right out of the rural parts of California here. So very proud to be a part of this organization.
And we're proud of you as well. Everything that you're saying sounds so essential. I want to call you essential workers, but I know you all are working from home for the most part as much as possible. So I want to talk a little bit about that. First of all, how has COVID-19 been affecting your communities? Louisa, we'll start with you.
Well, it has been hard on everybody, and COVID started in the Seattle area, and now it's making its way through the valley where the farm workers are. Right now, Yakima is a hot spot for us, and also Kennewick, where the wheat plant is located. And it has been very, very difficult. One thing that makes me smile is that people really recognize that our farm workers have always been essential workers to us, but they've never had the respect or, the attention that they have deserved. They work hard. It's a very difficult job, and we see that now more than any time. But it has been very hard. Like, we have a lot of H-2A workers that have been brought to the state, and immediately there was a breakout. And with the housing the way it is, they share several in one camp or housing unit. And so immediately they started testing everybody. There was like 70 that were positive, and so some of them were not being paid yet because they hadn't started working. So one of my staff reached out to the community action to drop off boxes of food. We have people that are in Seattle contacting me, sending masks. We are actively getting the information out to our farm worker communities, telling them how to stay safe. We have been in touch with many farm workers. Before we left, the program shut down because of the virus. All my staff throughout the state contacted all the farm workers to let them know, everybody on the caseloads, their families, here's information in Spanish. What do you call us? And now all the phones are connected to their cell phones. So we have a staff of 29 that are out in the field and constantly, remotely contacting the farm workers. So it's had a big impact. I don't know what the harvest is looking like this time. There's usually farm workers coming from California and making their way for the cherry harvest. We're not seeing a lot of that. We've only had a few emergency housing requests that were in Yakima. We don't know what it's going to look like. We don't know if the agriculture workers are going to be there to pick the fruit. And we're located where I'm at, Central Washington. We're like the fruit bowl.
Yeah.
And so it's all unknown. You know, farmers and community agencies, state agencies, we're all trying to figure it out together, but it has had a devastating impact on the state of Washington.
Just to follow up on that quickly, are the cherries on track to ripen at the same time, or have there been any issues with frost?
No, I think that they're on track.
Okay.
But the question is, who's going to pick them?
Yeah, that's really interesting that there's not been the migrant stream that you usually expect to see.
And usually by 4th of July, the camps are booked solid. We're putting people into hotels and gearing up for that. I don't know if the migrants are staying put. I don't know what's happening, but it's a very different year, and it's impacted everyone.
Jorge, would you have any insight on that? I know I also want to hear about the community where you are in Central California, but do you see the migrants on the other end of that stream?
No, they're staying put, Louisa. Just in the last couple of months, we have been focusing on emergency services, and we literally have exhausted our housing budget. In about 2 months, we distributed so much rental assistance that normally would have taken us about 9 months. So a lot of those folks that would have left are still here, and they're challenged. They're looking for ways to keep the lights on, keep the bills paid, gas in the car, food on the table, and staying off a eviction in their homes. So they're still here, Kendra.
And how about other things that are happening for the farm worker community? Can you speak to what's specific to your region?
Sure. So like Louisa said, farm workers have always been essential workers to us. I tend to be a glass half full person, so I look at the positives in things, and it's very challenging for me to find the positives in the farm worker community right now since the pandemic hit. 6 feet of separation is impossible in the field, and for anybody who has never been in a field, it's impossible. People are working side by side, front and back, and east and west. It's all covered. It's just rows and rows of crop that needs to be harvested, and it's groups of people. There's fields in our area that have thousands of workers in them at a single time. California does have some great legislation when it comes to farm worker protection, but still, you don't have the 6 feet of separation as a possibility. You don't have the PPE available. I mean, for God's sakes, health workers in California do not have the necessary PPE. What makes you think farm workers are going to have it? So CVOC, we've been focusing on gathering as much PPE as possible, and by that I mean, face masks, disposable or cloth, gloves, etc. And we've fallen behind on that. California and the country can do a much better job to get agencies like CVOC, like OIC, and AFOP as a national entity. For me, I'm still waiting for that donation of 1 million masks to farm workers. Where is that? Here we are exhausting our budgets trying to purchase these items because they are necessary. That's the very least we can do for our farm workers. And I will continue to scrounge and beg for funds in order to continue to purchase face masks and gloves so that we can distribute it to farm workers. But it's unfortunate that the people that feed us in America are not being taken care of. They're not able to call in sick. Shelter in place for a farm worker. If they shelter in place, we don't want to think of what could happen to them, right? The very worst of the worst possible outcome for them if they don't go to work. The entire supply chain, farm workers right now are, in my opinion, 100% responsible for keeping that going. If it wasn't for the farm workers showing up to work, you wouldn't be buying those fruits and vegetables in grocery stores across the country. So they are the most essential workers. Outside of healthcare, your farm workers, in my opinion, are the folks that are keeping us alive. In our area, we are in full harvest right now. Our migrant camps are opening. So housing is being provided for farm workers in my area. You drive around the country roads and into the rural parts of the counties we serve, and there's full-blown fields that are in harvest already. Today there was an email that the almond crop is going to be record crop this year.
Is it almond?
Yes, we call them almonds in California. You guys call them almonds. So the work has to get done, and farm workers need to eat. They need to provide for their families. So the least we can do is make it as safe for them as possible. So we're looking for partners. We're looking for those angels out there to partner with us and support us so that we can make sure that our farm workers are taken care of in the fields.
I just had some raspberries. So delicious. And I was thinking of the farm workers who must have picked those. We couldn't survive without them. And I want to remind everyone that all of AFOP members are collecting masks. So I'm going to throw this up on the screen again. Go to this website if you want to find out the member that's nearest to you, because we have one in every state except for Alaska, but including Puerto Rico. So go ahead and check that out. I also want to give a shout out to everyone else who has been joining us. We have more folks from California, from CVOC, welcome, and North Carolina, Minnesota, and East Coast Migrant Head Start. So welcome, everybody. We're happy you could join us. I'm going to move on to the next question for our panelists. How many cases do you know have been reported positive within the farm worker community that you serve? Go ahead, Louisa.
Well, I've been searching for that answer throughout the state, but I do know that in our areas that we serve, well, I updated the cases in Washington state, and today there's 17,510 confirmed cases and 975 deaths, and that goes up daily. Our hot spots, like I mentioned before, is Yakima County, and out of there, there's 1,960 positive cases right now and 68 deaths. So it's really spreading fast in Yakima, and that's where our headquarters are. And we have there are some packing sheds that are on strike right now because they feel that they're not being protected. How do you? They're standing side by side, like Jorge said, and they're not getting the protection that they need to continue working. So they've been on strike since the 7th of May, I believe. And then Yakima, and then in Benton and Franklin County over in Pasco area, there's 1,253 cases and 69 deaths, and that's where the Tyson meat packaging plant is, and there's also a lot of farm workers in that area that have been hit by this. Tyson meats finally closed. They closed for 12 days to test all their workers, and 250 were tested positive and died. So mostly, and the percentage of the people that are ill are Latinos. So there's a vast majority of farm workers that are being sick, and that's the ones we know of. Many of them don't have insurance, so they're not going to go get tested if it's going to cost them. They're sending, myself, I went to get tested, and they sent me to the hospital, and I just got a bill for $600 and something, and it's like, wait a minute here, I have insurance, but the insurance didn't pay that, and it's like, now I see why they're not even thinking about being tested or being counted in any way.
So Louisa, you said that you went to the hospital and you were billed?
I was billed, and I have to go fight this. And then my doctor's appointment, they're doing it virtually. $270 to talk to my doctor. It's like, no. And so if I have to go through these hoops, imagine what our farm workers are going through.
Exactly.
So, I mean, it's hitting, now that it's coming our way, it's hitting our agricultural communities pretty strong. And I've been looking for the accurate number. I've been calling Department of Ag. We don't have a count, but we know that the majority of the people that are getting sick are the Latino population.
Yeah, and as we've been doing this every week, it's been a slow march, but it's been progressing, and now I feel like it's here. We're in it right now.
Yes.
Thank you so much for those insights, Louisa. Jorge, what's happening for California for the Central Valley?
So in my area, just to give you an idea of kind of the demographics and size, so it's a 3-county area right in the heart of California, and total, according to the census, right, we're about 1 million people between the 3 counties. It doesn't take into account the undocumented folks that are here, which is a very high number. And we've had in our area of 1 million people, we have one county that's had about 500 infections and about 20 deaths. The good news, though, about that is 2/3 of those have already recovered. So you only have about 150 active cases. Another county that we're in has about 173 cases and 3 deaths, and about 73 that are active cases. And then our third county has had just shy of 111 deaths, and most of those have recovered as well. So on paper, it sounds like we're doing okay. With all due respect, we have lost some folks to the COVID-19, but there have been some folks that recovered, and just like us and across the country, who knows if those numbers are truly accurate? With the lack of testing, and Louisa is a prime example with the story she just told. With the lack of testing in Washington D.C., with the lack of testing there, what makes you think you're going to be able to get a test here in rural Merced County, California? It is getting better, but that's I'm sure those numbers are a lot higher. With regards to our farm worker community, good luck getting those numbers, Kendra. If you find out, let me know, because I'd love to know those numbers as well. Nobody's tracking it, and no one's tracking farm workers that are being infected by the coronavirus. You also are assuming that our folks are going to go and get tested, that they have access to that. Like I said, a lot of the people that are working in the fields are undocumented or they're H-2A workers. Access to healthcare in rural communities, which is where I'm at, is challenging at times. So if someone has that number, please share it with me. I will give you one stat, though. In the 1 million folks in our area that have been infected with the coronavirus, 64% are Latino. So it tells you right there who is Latino and African American. I think like 64% is Latino and African American. So that tells you that your low-income communities, your frontline workers, your essential workers in the service industry, in the fields, are primarily Latinos and African Americans where I live in my area. And those are the folks that are being affected the most right now with the COVID-19. So yeah, I hate to say it, but I'm a little skeptical about what the data shows with regards to farm workers and infections. We'll know more here in a few months once full harvest gets going and that social distancing gets harder. The lack of PPE is obvious. California is in their stage 2 of opening the state up, which again doesn't affect farm workers because they've been working. They haven't stopped working. So we'll see how it goes, Kendra. I guess stay tuned.
Yeah, thank you, Jorge. It's unfortunate there are so many barriers for farm workers to even accessing healthcare in the first place. And you said, how are we going to get the numbers? I think the only way we can do it is test them ourselves. And how can we do that if we're not a healthcare provider? It's not going to happen. So I think we can assume that most of the farm worker community is going to get this. I wanted to ask Louisa real quick about the farm workers that you said were striking. Is it the packing shed or what kind of a warehouse is it?
Shed out of Yakima, and they've been on strike. There's 50 workers that have been on strike, and then other packing sheds are joining them. It's a warehouse in Natchez, and they have. They're stating that they're not getting adequate. They're not taking adequate precautions for them to keep them safe, and their lack of transparency. Just they expect them to keep going, but they're not providing any safety measures. They want the the extra money that they're
The hazard pay.
yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so it's following suit throughout the valley because many of them are saying that, you know what, they want us to go work, but nobody's taking care of us to go do that.
Exactly.
And so, yeah, it's throughout, and it's going to get bigger. They have
Yeah.
no.
If the workers are essential, please treat us like that. Treat us like we're essential.
Yes.
So I want to make sure that we talk about the initiatives that your organizations are doing to help prevent the contagion from spreading. So if either of you, how about we start with Jorge this time? What are the initiatives that CVOC is taking on to try to protect farm workers and to protect your staff?
Yeah, that is a living, breathing thing that changes sometimes hourly, sometimes daily. In order to provide help, you have to take care of yourself first. So, in the beginning, in mid-March, when our state went to shelter in place right around, I believe it was right after St. Patrick's Day, we first thing we had to do was make sure that our employees were taken care of. So we were able to make PPE purchases. We installed sneeze guards into all of our offices, shut down our common areas, et cetera, et cetera. The biggest challenge in that we've had is we provide free vocational training to migrant seasonal farm workers. So our model is, in order to get that job or start that career, you have to have marketable skills. In order to have marketable skills, you need to have some form of education, whether that's completing your high school equivalency or learning how to weld or drive a tractor trailer. We provide those services. So we had a lot of folks that were on that path in our classrooms towards gaining that certificate or that degree so that they could get that job and either upgrade their skills at the farms they're working in or move into a different industry. So the biggest challenge we'd had to face is we had to pivot our classrooms to an online platform. You can imagine how hard it is to picture a truck school moving to an online platform, right? Well, the DMV's closed. We couldn't do behind the wheel testing anymore, or much less behind the wheel driving. So, our staff of instructors did a very good job in converting all of our training courses: welding, truck driving, solar panel installation, Microsoft Office, easy, to some form of an online format, so that those students, those farm workers, could continue their education and at a snail's pace, but continue to move forward towards achieving their goals. So we've been up and down, Kendra. We've gone from having skeleton crews in our offices to being completely closed to just providing emergency services to everybody working from home, and now back to the offices. It changes daily, as we were talking beforehand. I'm writing policy today that will be obsolete tomorrow. We just don't know with this pandemic what tomorrow brings us, much less what next week brings us. So it's been a constant focus on adapting, pivoting, and making sure that we can, at bare minimum, provide emergency services to our folks, like rental assistance, utility assistance, food vouchers, distribution days, things like that. Now, where we're at here, towards the end of May, as I mentioned earlier, California is opening up a little bit. A lot of people are recovering from the COVID-19. So, a couple weeks from now, we may see some form of offices on a greater scale. Of course, we'll follow along with what our governor says, what the CDC says, our local public health departments as well. Again, I don't want to put my staff in danger, but we need to find a way, and we have been finding a way to continue to provide services to those most in need, and that's farm workers in our community. So, again, I mentioned I'm a glass half full kind of guy, so it has changed our business service delivery model for good, forever. When our folks come back to work, we will not look the same, and that's a good thing. We've incorporated a lot of technology, invested a lot of funds into technology to where We can do what we're doing now with farm workers across our service area. They don't have to risk their health by coming into our office, and my staff doesn't have to risk their health by going out to see them. They can do it all over the internet, over the phone, email. We've built portals on our website to where you can just apply for services right then and there. And now our service delivery model with our online education, our online job search formats, mock interviews are online now. We can do it safely. So again, it's changed us for the better. And I wake up every morning looking forward to what the day is going to bring. I don't know. It's fluid. It truly is fluid. So we just roll with it and we do the best we can.
Sounds like you're doing a great job, Jorge.
Trying.
Have all your program participants been able to join on those online portals? Have you done any kind of surveys to see what their experience has been?
Yeah, no, most have enjoyed it. In the beginning, again, late March, which seems like so long ago, but it's not. 6, 7, 8 weeks ago, right? We had challenges. We didn't have enough laptops for everybody. Not everybody had Wi-Fi in the home. Not everybody even had access to having Wi-Fi in the home. Again, when you're in rural communities, there's some dial-up that still exists, and there's some areas where you can't even get internet service. We've had some luck with some local partnerships with Verizon and some local school districts that have Wi-Fi buses, for lack of a better term. So we'll park those buses that have Wi-Fi in certain communities that have challenges, and that whole few blocks of homes now has access to Wi-Fi. So we were able to make some purchases of some laptops and devices and distribute those to our students. Again, when you have a welding school and a trucking school and solar panel schools, you don't normally have laptops in those type settings. But now we do. And we have an educational curriculum that's online for them to access as well. So I foresee when we do open back up our classrooms, there may not be a need for classrooms anymore. You may be able to study with us out of the comfort of your own home. You may be able to do it in the evenings or on weekends. And again, those are some of the positives that have come out of this. So, but we did face the challenges. The technology has been huge, and I commend my staff for doing a great job with developing things on the fly. We've changed our whole service model in 6 weeks. That would have taken us probably 6 years. So, yeah, it's been hard. It's been hard.
Change.
Our folks will be better off.
Can you all hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome. I want to just remind everyone who's on with us to type questions into the chat box if you have any for our panelists. We again have Louisa Mora from OIC of Washington and Jorge De Nava Jr. from CVOC talking about the farm worker populations in their areas and how they've been helping them. We're really proud of everything that our AFOP members are doing, and really, I'm just glowing with pride right now. I've never heard of Wi-Fi buses. That's amazing. Yeah. Louisa, can you tell us a little bit about OIC of Washington and your initiatives?
Well, Washingtonians at the state level have grouped together, and we're having weekly meetings that consist of CEOs, numerous state agencies, representatives from the Mexican consulate, the farm worker unions, agricultural employers, agricultural representatives, and we are working together to assess the best way to handle the COVID-19 challenges in the agricultural community. And we've also teamed up with Department of Ag and the Governor's Office and the Farm Bureau to distribute masks. They're free to all agriculture workers. And so OIC is going to be assisting with purchasing and distributing as well. And one thing I wanted to mention that we've been really innovative in the AFOP handkerchiefs that we have. We're going to be distributing the AFOP handkerchiefs all over the state to farm workers.
Awesome.
So I'll have to get some snapshots of them wearing them out there.
Yes, please.
But I think collectively as a group, we are concerned about, our state is like 4th largest in agriculture. And so we are concerned, and we are trying our best to take care of these issues. And so these calls are helping, and people are holding other people accountable. and that needs to happen. So I think that we're making some positive gains in that, and we're aware, and we're doing whatever is necessary, to help this situation, because it continues to get worse, and we've got to do something to manage it.
Well, we're really happy that you're doing that work, Louisa. Can you talk a little more about those calls and the change that you've seen from it, or is it all kind of still in the works?
Well, also on the part where Jorge had mentioned, we're kind of adapting to that model as well. I've been getting calls all the way from Seattle saying, I've read articles that farm workers are not being taken care of, that their safety is not being addressed. And I have a lady that is gathering and making masks and sending them to my home so that I can get them distributed out. And our organization is very serious on keeping our employees safe. And so our crew, 29 of us, we all have laptops at home, and I think it's important because emotionally we're going through a lot. We're used to being out there and working hard, and we're not letting them out, and we have a stay-home order. And so we meet like every 2 weeks or a couple times a week in different meetings, and we're transitioning. I mean, my technology skills have really advanced here in the last 8 weeks. So we continue to do what's necessary to serve our farm workers, and we're having the same challenges, and we have to go outside the box, whether it's comfortable or not. It's necessary.
Thank you, Louisa. Someone just asked in the chat box where we can donate masks for farm workers. So I know we have this website for all members across the country. Do you have any specific information for Washington State or for California?
If you put our website up, you can send them straight to OIC.
Great.
Well, can I ask in that vein, as Louisa and Jorge, as you've been gathering that PPE to distribute, who have been your partners? Are you reaching out to companies? Are you looking for volunteers? Like, how are you getting the masks that you need and that you want? What's the well you're going to now?
So for us in California, at least in my part, it was picture back, think back 8 weeks ago when this started, and you couldn't get toilet paper, right? Now multiply that by 10. You couldn't get PPE. You couldn't buy face masks and gloves. You couldn't get them donated 2 months ago. That was all going, where it should have gone to the healthcare workers, right? Well, slowly in the last few weeks, we've had the opportunity to purchase. And like I mentioned earlier, we're still waiting for that big donation. We've been partnering with our state organization, La Cooperativa Campesina de California, out of Sacramento, and the executive director there has been working extremely hard to solicit donations of masks and gloves. And we just recently, this week, were notified of, I believe, 25,000 masks that were donated to us.
Wow.
We're still waiting on California, though. That's great, but we're waiting on California. Governor Newsom has mentioned 2 million masks for farm workers. Well, I haven't seen the delivery. I'd love to get those anywhere and everywhere possible, to answer your question, Katie. So we want to get it in the hands of people that need it the most, and we feel that CVOC, OIC, and our partnership with AFOP, our membership, are the best tool, the best delivery system to get those items to farm workers.
Absolutely.
Is there a phone number that anyone can call to reach CVOC or OIC of Washington? Or is it just the website mostly?
The website, and then we'll pick it up from there, whatever region we can.
Great.
Yeah, for us, our website, our Facebook, our contact page on our website, our main number is 209-357-0062.
Hang on, say that again.
209-357-0062.
All right, and we start ringing off the hook. Just watch out.
Yeah, you can ask for Jorge De Nava Jr.
There you go. Louisa, we want to get our phone number?
Real time. Good work, Kendra.
Yeah, probably, you could contact 509.
Oh, wait, hang on. Let me do this.
509.
Uh-huh.
834.
Mm-hmm.
561.
Five.
509.
Uh-huh.
834. 3561.
3561. Okay, great. Just a second.
Or
All right.
just post on our website on our Facebook. Take it from there.
Here it comes. There you go. Oops. Sorry. Little typo on the website. Yeah. There you go. All right. We haven't had any questions from our viewers. Katie, do you have any questions for Jorge or Louisa?
I mean, I just want to congratulate you on how nimble your organizations have been. I mean, you know, because I suppose because you're used to your team being dispersed anyway, like your managers and staff must have the right mindset to like keep going, even if you're not all together all the time, because they're used to being out in the field to find the farm workers anyway. But this has been such a challenge, and working from home is difficult. I mean, I call it living at work, right? Not working from home, but living at work. So congratulations to you and your staff on how nimble you've been able to be to adapt to this crazy time. I mean, we'll be saying, you know, in 20 years, we'll be saying, remember when, and this will be up for us to like time and show our grandchildren and our great grandchildren. This is what we did. So congratulations to you and to all of our members.
Louisa and Jorge, I sometimes end on a positive note to help, you know, give us all a lift in the day. What thing would you say inspires you most day to day? Louisa, I'll have you go first.
For me, coming from a farm worker background, I understand the struggles, and it's always been a struggle. It's not an easy life. And for me, I've been in the business as long as I have because I have that passion to serve. And it's one of the most important things that I have dedicated my life to, trying to make their lives better. That life that I came from, I want to be able to walk beside them and help them in any way possible. And I've been able to, fortunate enough to be able to live that mission and have the opportunity to do so. And I love that.
It's a very lofty life work, and we're really proud that you're doing it. Jorge?
That's awesome, Louisa. Well said. For me, Louisa and I are the ones on here today, but we're one of many folks that are waking up every morning and serving the farm worker community. And one of the things that gets me going every day is honoring those that laid the foundation and the groundwork and the model for us to even do this. You know, we're all newbies in this cause, and this movement of serving farm workers has been going on for, you know, over 50 years at least, right? So, you know, I feel that obligation to honor those that came before me. And I also think about my employees. If I don't get up in the morning and try and do my best, you know, then I've let down, you know, my 100 employees. And then I think about the community that I serve. It's like, you know, I live here. You know, I live in the community that I serve. So, you know, I want to be able to hold my head up high when I go to the store or I'm pumping gas and I see somebody and it's like, yeah, you know, I tried my best. Hopefully that was good enough. So, you know, the community that we serve is kind of what gets us going. And when I say community, that's the overarching, you know, physical, emotional state of our participants, our employees, and our neighbors. I don't know. I hope that answers your question. It
definitely does. We did get one question from Andrea, and I just want to ask if she can clarify. Andrea, you're asking, are you seeing H-2B changing to agricultural work? Do you mean H-2A? And if so, are you asking if I just need a little bit more clarity on that question, and we'll try to answer that maybe after the fact in the chat box. So, but in general, I think what we've seen changes so far that I've heard is just the migrant stream is not streaming. It's not flowing right now. And H2A workers are still coming, but they're getting sick, and there's been challenges along the way. So anything else that you all want to add?
I just had, oh, go ahead, Louisa.
I just have to give a shout out to my amazing team and thank them for all the hard work that they do. And we're hanging in there.
Yes, we love you all so much.
I wanted to say one thing too. Jorge, you were talking about having a hard time seeing the glass half full, and that's not my strength usually, seeing it half full. I always look for people like you to help me find it, but I think I do have one thing that I keep thinking about, you know, the light that has been shined on this as essential work. There are people across the country right now who maybe 6 months ago didn't think very carefully about where their food was coming from. They didn't think about people in processing plants and meat packers and meat packing inspectors who are also getting ill. And the light that's being shined on our food system right now, people are so aware. And if we can keep that light on the food system as we work through this crisis, maybe we can see real change to protect these workers moving forward. So that's the thing that I'm hopeful as we go through this, this crisis, and we experience tragedy and we experience sadness and frustration, that hopefully the light that's being shined on our food system will not go out, and people won't just look away once it's not an emergency anymore. So that's what I'm hoping for, Jorge.
That's a great outlook, Katie. That's real growth for you. I like it. That's
I know. I'm trying to be an optimist.
Yeah. You know what? Farm work is honorable work, and we try and tell people that all the time. There's no shame in saying you're a farm worker. It is honorable, necessary, and essential work, and I'm of the opinion that they should be treated that way.
Exactly.
They should be seen that way, and I'm not going to stop fighting until they are.
Like someone said on Instagram this morning, we don't want to be heroes. We just want our rights. So, yeah. Thank you all for everything that you're doing. I'm so proud of you, and AFOP all across the nation doing this important work to support our farm workers who are keeping us fed, keeping us alive. So thank you everyone for joining. I want to remind you, we have this every week, usually at 12:30. I think next week we're going to break from the norm and have it starting at 4 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. That'll be 1 p.m. for you West Coasters, so you don't have to wake up so early. I mean, that's not why, but it's anyway, I'll post that so you all are aware. But please join us again next week. We're going to have the camp program from Adams State University in Southern Colorado join us, and a couple of their students. So that'll be an interesting time to talk about their experience as they went back to the fields to work in the middle of the school year. So thank you again. Thank you, Louisa. Thank you, Jorge, and good luck with.
Thank you, Kendra. Thank you for the platform. Great job.
Great. We'll see you again. Bye.
Everybody.
Bye, everyone. Bye, Katie. Bye, Louisa.